Everybody, St. Paul here. I am in LA working with my dear friend Oliver Lieber on my new record. But my guest this week on episode 36 of Music on the Run is Kat Perkins, and she's coming right up. Hey everybody, welcome to Music on the Run, episode 36. Wow, can't believe it. It's finally spring here. Yeah, I'm running. Did 8 miles on Saturday, 4 miles today, and some of that COVID-15's coming off. It is. I'm actually practicing what I preach, and it's just finally getting beautiful here in Minnesota. Check it out. My next guest is an incredible singer, a motivational speaker, a television and radio personality, and she runs her own nonprofit organization called the Rising Star Foundation. She was a finalist on season 6 of The Voice, and I absolutely adore this woman. Please welcome Kat Perkins. I need a theme song or something like that. Maybe I can get one in here. Hold on. Let me see if I can do that here. Kat Perkins, everybody. Welcome, Kat. How are you?
That was really good. How are you? I'm so good. It's nice outside. It's spring in Minnesota.
Finally, right? Yes.
I'm just elated to not have to be shoveling or snow blowing.
So Kat is my Minnesota buddy. She's not originally from here, but we claim her for our own, whether you like it or not.
Thank you, because I claim it. So
okay, I would hope so. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chat. You don't let a little thing like COVID get in the way of you being that spark plug that I know you are. You're always doing something cool. Tell me what you've been doing for the last year since we haven't been able to go out and hang and play live.
Talk about on the run. I guess that's what I should have called my series. So, last year our tour got cut short. We were in New Orleans on March 8th, because I remember it clearly. And they sent us home and they were like, that's it. The world is shutting down. There's a pandemic. We had heard all the buzz, right? And then we quarantined because we had been out there, and then I finished Netflix.
Did you finish the whole thing?
The whole thing and Hulu.
Did you?
I should start over now
because I need a new show. I just finished Schitt's Creek, and what else did I finish? Yellowstone. So I will be talking about what I need to see next.
Yeah, I mean, now it's been amazing. They've done a great job of getting new stuff out there, but. And then I was staring at my vehicles. Honestly, I felt like in my heart, if I still needed music in my life and live music, that I thought we could safely do this and spread joy around our communities. So me and my guitar player, Eric Warner, started jumping in my new truck that I had just bought for pulling gear and all this stuff, right? Really bad time to be buying a car. And we started to go to people's driveways, socially distant, small, tiny little gatherings, just families that had been quarantining together. And we were doing concerts. So we just it was basically
out of your truck.
Out of my truck, out of the back of my truck, like a good North Dakota girl where I grew up in North Dakota.
You're making me proud now, girl.
Utilizing what we had, where we are with, what the circumstance was. And it turns out that it was, it really took off quickly because, neighbors told other neighbors and neighbors told other neighbors, and all these different, places in Minnesota were like, get Kat to come and sing for you. And so we started doing like pop-up concerts, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever they wanted. And then it started to just be this joyful thing that was helping our community and helping people, sort of navigate through this weird time, and also gave joy to us. I'm not going to lie. I was a little selfish in the moment because it was really getting us out of bed, getting us out of the house, and making us feel like we were doing something. And we're still doing it to this day. 1 year later, we just celebrated our year anniversary of doing it, and it's so much fun.
That's crazy. What a brilliant way to bring joy to the community. And look, I mean, there needed to be some joy in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and there still does. Just meaning with all, the attention that's been focused on us because of the murder of George Floyd. Did you find that the community was hungry for a little peace and love through music? And do you think that brought people together? 100%.
We started to do these really feel-good songs, and we would end pretty much every curbside concert with Kat with like Lean on Me or something that was like, or like Don't Stop Believin', and all these cover tunes that just meant something to me, made us feel good. And definitely we saw people coming together. We saw people just stepping outside of all the chaos and quarantining and homeschooling for 30 minutes and just coming outside, having fun and bringing them together in a different way, very safely. And it was just magical. Here's what I said. I said to Warner, here's what we're going to do right now. We're just going to try this right now, just right now. And then I'm saying probably like the first 5 days into the process, I said, no, this is what we do now. And I don't think we should ever stop. No matter what tour that comes back or what shows come back, we should fill in the blanks by keeping on spreading joy in these small, intimate ways on your curbside concerts.
Brand new way to connect with your community, with your fans.
100%.
A new revenue stream, I would hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should tell you, it was like we doubled down right off the bat because we figured out that, yes, we needed to put food on our table, of course, but we were getting so much give to us that we decided to give back immediately. So we teamed up with Second Harvest Heartland right off the bat. And so every single day, which we leave ourselves open still to this day, 7 days a week to do it, we give back a portion of every single day's proceeds and tips right back to charity. And we've been able to provide over 5,000 meals for people in need around the Twin Cities by just doing concerts at people's curbsides.
Wow. What does that do for you?
It makes my heart so full. I feel it in my bones, in my soul. I feel, like we're doing good. I feel the joy, and I feel that give back that just makes the universe sort of spin in a different way. And just, it's warm, it's love, it's doing good things, which is what I'm always all about.
You said it. It is love. And when you give love, you get love in return tenfold, 20-fold, 100-fold.
100%.
And you are living proof of that. You just shared that story with it. That is so amazing. And might I remind our fans of this podcast that she was doing this during and completely through a Minnesota winter.
Oh yeah.
Right? So did we have like the mittens, the gloves, the parkas, the moon boots?
Yeah.
Moon boots.
All of that. Moon boots. I love moon boots. I bought like a Costco sized pack of hand warmers and foot warmers. And what we did is I have a secondary vehicle, which is our tour van. So it's a 15-passenger van. After it got cold, after it got below like 30 degrees, 28 degrees, I remember because I blogged about it. I was like 28 degrees. I think that's my point where I have to have some sort of heat. And I took out the seats of my van and we put in propane heat and then obviously just the van heat, kept it running throughout the show. So my guitar player, Warner, could keep his hands warm and he sat inside and I put this fake fireplace in there with a bunch of ambient lighting and holiday things after it got close to Christmas. And I still jumped out, but he stayed in. And I'll tell you, one thing I never thought of that happened right off the bat is my hand got frozen to the mic at one point. So I ended up wrapping my mic in pipe insulation. Then I remember on New Year's Eve, it was like, 14 below with wind chill. And my mic got stuck to my lips, just like, the old jungle gym
just like
scene.
licking the Putting your tongue on the
exactly.
Yeah, nice.
And I just kept it there, and all you want to do is like pull it away, but I just was like, what am I going to do? At least it's stuck to my mouth, and I just like breathed on it until I got it away from my lips. But I was like, got to use a new mic technique because that's not going to be working for me through this sub-zero temperatures.
Just Vaseline so it could never stick there. Just coat it with Vaseline.
Just insulate those lips. So we got through it. I'll tell you, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, I'm all about setting goals, and I usually write them down somewhere. And I said we should try to do 30. We should try to do 30 curbside concerts for the holidays. Keep that holiday joy going. And we couldn't do our Christmas tour, so we wanted something in place of that. And we ended up doing 68 concerts from November to January 1st.
See?
And we were doing like 6 a day. And I hit my limit at some point. I was like, whoa, that's too many. Like, I can't do more than 6 a day.
What? You got to be careful of your chops.
But it was so perfect. And all these families, for Christmas was the kids. And we were having them sing along and bringing them some little necklaces and cat ear, Christmas cat ears and all these little gifts that we had laying around. So it was that was completely magical. And I can't wait to do that again for the holidays. Even though it's cold, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all.
Wow. Well, you and I have known each other for a long time.
Yes.
Do you remember when we met? You probably remember better than I do.
I remember the day because I had known the legend. So I moved here in 1999 from North Dakota. So I remember I learned all about all the musical people in this town. Obviously, you having the legendary family. I had heard your music. I had seen your family perform. I had seen all these different things. And it was probably 2002, I'm going to say, when we ended up doing a charity fundraiser at St. Joan of Arc Church.
Amen.
And it's the cabaret, which I think they still do.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, right?
They do.
And my husband at the time was the drummer, the resident drummer of that church. And you were on the bill. And so I got to be a part of it. And I got to sing background vocals, and I met you for the first time, and you sang Purple Rain, and I got to do the background vocals. And I was not even legal. I couldn't go to the bar. I was not 21 yet, but
really?
No.
Oh my God.
I was probably right on the cusp of turning 21.
Crazy. Well, let's take it all the way back, because we just established that we claim you here in Minnesota, but you're not from here. You're from Scranton, North Dakota. Is that correct?
Scranton, North Dakota. A lot of people think when I say that I'm talking about the Electric City from The Office, which, everyone loves that show. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It was named after Scranton, Pennsylvania, but this is Scranton, North Dakota. Very different from Scranton, Pennsylvania. A town, when I grew up there, was 280 people total.
Okay.
I had 9 kids in my class. I was valedictorian, but can you brag about it when there's only 9 kids in your class?
Wow. What, did you graduate 9th?
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. You just kind of threw it out there. I got to pounce on that.
And now the population is more like 150. It was a mining town back in my day, but the mine shut down when I was in high school, so in the 90s, and a lot of people left. And I, even though I knew nothing different, right? I grew up in a tiny little town and very rural. One of my first driving experiences was like a 1969 International grain truck.
Yeah, baby. 3 in the tree? Was there 3 in the tree?
There was not, but my grandpa did have one of those. That's was not only 4 on the floor, but it had a 5th overdrive little button that you could
Okay.
But I'm, I hit my max height when I was about 13, so I'm only 4'11".
That's right. That's my little spark plug. Yeah.
And I couldn't reach the pedals, so my dad built these blocks for me to reach the pedals. I helped with harvest. I did all this farming stuff. But, when I started feeling the pull to bigger city life and bigger, more opportunity places when I was probably about 15, 16. And so I knew by the time that I was 18, I was going to turn that tassel and move somewhere. And where I grew up, like Denver and Minneapolis were equidistant. So Denver was 9 hours, Minneapolis 9 hours. So, doing my research about wanting to be a musician and singer and performer, it just felt like Minneapolis was a better place to land with a great music scene, as you know, and, family oriented music scene, which I didn't know until I got here. But it was, and theater, I had dabbled in some acting and singing and dancing. So I knew that if all else failed, I could move to this big city and audition to be in theater productions. And I did that. And it happened for several years before I was in a band or writing my songs. But I knew immediately that it was the right decision. It was culture shock for sure, but I knew immediately that I had made the right decision. I still have lifelong friends that I met literally the first week that I was here, and I've stayed ever since. So I'm celebrating my 20th year here.
Wow. But your parents are musicians or were musicians, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you grew up in a musical family.
I did. Just like you. My dad was the music teacher in my little town for 37 years. He was my teacher. He was in a band. He's a bass player. And his band was called Young Imagination.
Cool.
You can
I like the name.
Definitely tell what era that was.
That's right.
And my mom and him are high school sweethearts. So they started dating in the 8th grade. And she learned piano. And so she eventually joined the band as the organ player, like the old little Hammond. And
like that behind me.
Probably not a real Hammond, but yeah, they didn't tour with that kind of it. They had like the little travel thing they did. And then she became the church organist, like pipe organist. Ooh. In my little Lutheran church in Scranton, North Dakota. I mean, I used to sit and watch her every Sunday. I mean, pulling the stops, using her knees and her feet and the pedals and doing that. I'm like, how do you, it's like doing this. Like it was fascinating to watch her play this, it spanned the entire wall of this church. And she taught me piano. My sister is older. She's 4 years older. And so she was already singing by the time I was born and playing piano in like kindergarten. So all I wanted to do was be like my sister, of course. And she hated it. She was so annoyed. But I was starting to play. She would practice piano lessons, and I would then get up on the piano when she was done, and I would copy exactly what she had just played. And I remember my dad saying, oh dear, like,
here we go.
We need to get her in. Yeah. It was just natural for me. And dad played records every single night. That's what we did as a family. Vinyls. He would play everything from Van Halen to John Prine and Peter, Paul and Mary and Donna Summer and Lionel Richie. Like, I have all these amazing memories of picking out these vinyls and listening and singing with my dad and just learning harmony and sitting as a family.
But you turned into a rocker. But you love all that stuff.
It's true. I can't deny it. When I started to write music, I think my biggest influence at the time when I was about 14, 15 was country, because that was what was on the radio. We only had one radio station during the day. And at night, after the sun went down, you could get a second radio station that played rock and pop. So I was a little bit confused, in that interim, but trying to write music, it was like, it always came out rock. It always came out rock. And I was like frustrated with that. But my dad was like, just embrace it. And, you could just be who you are, be a rocker chick, like do it. He said, I was forever, like, it's okay. And that's where my band Scarlet Haze was born, because everything that I had written since then, since I was 14, came to life when I was about 21. And then it was rock. It was true rock.
Scarlet Haze, was that your first band that you put together here in the cities?
Yep, that was my first band. I had met my ex-husband, Shane, and I had met a ton of other musicians through the theater world. And, I was always showing him like, oh, look what I wrote today. And he was like, you really need to connect with these musicians. So we got together a great core of musicians who stayed with me for the better part of a decade. And we, like here's what happened. It was so beautifully magical because I had my journal of lyrics and ideas, and we ended up locking ourselves in a basement for like a month and just jamming, workshopping these songs, hitting record every now and then. And we all of a sudden, we were like, we have something and we should play out. And, there's, like I said before, the scene here was perfect, is still perfect. Even though we're in a lull right now, there's so many venues. And back then there were so many venues that in the early 2000s that were doing original music. And so we just started hitting the scene. We were hustling and giving our demo to the Fine Line and 7th Street Entry and the Uptown Bar, which was my favorite. And then they would give us a time slot, and we just started playing our original music for people. And for whatever reason, within 1 year, we had quite the following.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
So did you say that you were in that band for nearly 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually 9 years, almost on the dot.
Did you end up, you have to tell the story about opening for Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
You got to tell me about that.
Okay, so we were 11 months into this journey. 11 months, not even a year. And I found this ad in the paper for Battle of the Bands. And if you won this Battle of the Bands, it was put on by a local radio station. And if you won the battle, then you got to open up for a sold-out Bon Jovi concert. Here's what's great about that story. That concert was always sold out. They didn't need to bring on any sort of local opener. They didn't need the press. They didn't need the media. It was John Bon Jovi, who has done it now for years, who says, I want to give people a chance. And I want to give musicians in their local town a shot at being in front of people, which is just beautiful. Like it's just so rare these days that people do that. So he started it in 2005. And so we did the thing. We signed up. We were like, there's no way we're going to do this. How do we get the votes? How do we get the people? We haven't been together that long, but we had a lot of friends and family, and we stood outside downtown on Hennepin Avenue and like gave out flyers after concerts. No. We went to Cub Foods and we would flyer people's cars saying, come and vote for us in this Battle of the Bands. Here's the opportunity of a lifetime for us. And we won. We did it. I was so nervous. There was like 4 or 5 bands in the running, and we got it. We got the vote. We had over 200 and some votes that night alone, and then there was people that could vote online, and we just crushed it. So we got that shot, and it forever changed my life because it was just a new level. And I don't know, I'm sure you know, but like, we had been playing these venues for 100 people, 150 people, 200 on a great night. But when there's 10,000 plus in a room and the lights go down and everyone screams, because that's just what you do no matter who's going on stage. I remember standing there and just thinking, I don't know if I can do this. My nerves were on fire. And the lights came back up. There we were. Our intro was playing. And I saw my mother, 11th row, with her rock fist right up in the air, and she's my height. She's actually shorter than me nowadays, but bless her. Jumping up and down. And we did 35 minutes just, and straight in front of Bon Jovi. We got to hang out with the band. We met them all day long. We hung out after sound check and all the craziness. And, John like asked us about our lives and our journeys of being musicians and why we wanted to do this. And that forever changed my life, because then the media caught on, and then we ended up with a ton of agents and managers that were coming at us, and we ended up scoring a record deal out of the whole thing, and it was a fast track with that band. And might I add that there was a lot of luck involved, but and I'm a lucky person. I have a lot of luck on my side, but my dad always says, luck favors the prepared. And
bingo.
And I love that because he's right. And I was prepared. I was born for that moment and all of the hard stuff that came with it.
You were prepping your entire career for that night opening for Bon Jovi.
My whole life.
Walk me through what it's like after that high to have to give up singing for a while. I mean, that's an incredible range of emotions. Walk me through that journey.
Yeah. So, everything was going so well for us for a few years. And when we got our record deal, it was a slower process than I thought it was going to be. So we got to spend a lot of time on the record and writing with people. And I ended up writing a song with Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. Wow. And it ended up being the first single, which was called Reach Down. And so it went to radio, and this was the peak. This was the peak moment, because now we knew, like, it was going to happen. We had to work hard, and we're going to have to tour this record, and we're going to have to, really push rock radio to play this song. And so, we were doing the press tour that came out with this single release, which meant you're up at the crack of dawn, doing morning show on radio, doing afternoon television, doing afternoon radio, doing night time meet and greets, doing a show, and then repeat for like 30 days. And you drive all the way around. We focused in the Midwest and a little bit of the South. And so I was tired. It's a grueling process. If you've ever been, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, it's just hard work, but it's worth it. And you get to meet your fans and all of these radio stations that are playing your music, and you get to thank them in person. But I started to lose my voice constantly. And being a singer, I had definitely experienced that, especially when I get sick. If I get a cold or allergies, it goes right directly to my throat. So I knew what that felt like, but I wasn't sick. And something felt really wrong. It started to become very painful to speak. It started to be very painful to just do anything. So I ended up taking a couple days off, drinking water, sleeping, because that's usually what I would do. Drink water, go to sleep. And it wasn't working. And I'm telling you, this was in the span of it was going down for a couple weeks, but there hit a point of 2 days. I couldn't do anything. So I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with a cyst on my left vocal cord, the size of my pinky nail, which is quite big when it comes to your vocal fold, as you know. And what was happening is this whole left side was basically paralyzed. It wasn't moving. It couldn't move. And the right side was doing a bunch of work, and it finally just, crapped out. And it was on the verge of basically bursting. I mean, it was so callous and so big. And, I remember being in a fog that day, because I remember him saying what was wrong. And I remember feeling relieved that I had an answer, but I also remember feeling terrified of what was next and what needs to happen. And, I'm in the middle of a tour, and my life was going so well, and we were just on cloud nine. And, I remember him saying something like, "What are you doing Thursday?" This was a Monday. And he was like, we have to go in and we have to remove it with emergency surgery, now. Ooh. And what they could tell is it was multiplying so fast. That's why it felt like it went down within a few days, but it had been growing for over 5 years. The whole time I had this band, it was growing. It just didn't really affect me until that last moment. And once it starts multiplying really quickly, obviously that's very scary when it comes to cells in your body. So they needed to do a biopsy as well immediately when they took it out. But, all the questions, and I remember just being devastated, and my life just felt like it stopped. Kind of like how I felt last year during a pandemic, where it just, everything stops and you don't know what to do. And I didn't want to tell the band, but of course I had to, and I had to cancel the rest of the press tour, and we didn't know how far beyond. And it was terrifying. So I fearlessly went in, and I still have the same great doctor here in Minneapolis. And Dr. Silver went in there and took it out. And he said it was so embedded that they had to take part of my ligament, which meant a longer healing process. And basically that I couldn't sing. I couldn't sing for further notice, really, And then we started the journey of the checkups, and the surgery went swell. It was perfect. I couldn't speak for 10 days, which if you know me, it's very hard for me. The funny part is, and maybe you know this or maybe you don't, which I love the science of things, but the number one function of your vocal cords is balance. So like walking, riding, and if you do this, you feel it right there.
No, I didn't know that.
It's the number one function of your vocal fold is balance.
The rest is just gravy then.
The rest is gravy. So that being said, for those 10 days, not only could I not speak or sing or anything, make a peep. You can't whisper, you can't do anything, but you couldn't walk or move very much. You could not go to the grocery store and spend that amount of time walking and balancing yourself. You couldn't be in a car. Right? How mind-blowing is that?
Whoa.
Yeah.
So on top of the world to absolutely done.
And I mean, there was nothing I could do besides tell everyone to wait, and nobody waited. My record label did not wait. My agents did not wait. My band could not wait, and they needed to get jobs and put food on the table, and so they all moved on, and I was left with all these questions. So instead of normal rehab for a singer may have been, once I could start speaking again, it may have been vocal lessons. But what I did is I took it to another degree, and I went into speech therapy. And I did speech therapy for 2.5 years. 2.5 years after that moment. I mean, I was not.
Is that Bob Greider?
That was Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob Greider, my lifesaver. Which I always laughed because his famous line every week would be like, the goal is for you to not see me anymore.
Yes. And I love him too. By the way, my audience knows that I struggle with speaking issues as well.
Yeah.
And I called Kat. I'm like, I was at wit's end. I'd been to the Mayo. I've been everywhere. And I called her and I said, I know that you had vocal surgery.
Yeah.
I need help. And she turned me on to Bob Greider, and
Bob.
We became fast friends, and I still struggle quite a bit. You've recovered so beautifully, by the way. Unfortunately, this is just I'm continuing on the same journey, and it's manageable. So what's the first thing I do after having this thing? I decide to have a podcast where I have to talk the whole time.
Yeah, right?
So,
nice.
It makes me accountable to myself to try to get better.
Does.
I mean, I could be better about getting better. There's a T-shirt for you.
There you
Be
go.
better about getting better. But it's true. So I thank you for that connection to Bob.
100%. And we've helped our friend Brian White with it. And I'll tell you, I have not divulged this at all because there's nowhere to say it. So I'll say it tonight. I have experienced a fair amount of atrophy during this pandemic.
Whoa.
Even though I've been doing curbsides and still using my voice, there's something that's, that my muscles just aren't what they were. And I don't know, I'm using it differently. So I'm having some issues. We were just rehearsing today for our next show, and it's just different. And, age is a factor when it comes to singing, and my range is just a little bit down, but I got to work on it again. And you're right. And I spend a fair amount of my time talking as well, especially during this, because I do a lot of motivational speaking. And I think what the real problem is for me right now is that I tend to like yell at the computer. I feel like I'm doing it right now. I yell behind that screen. I yell behind the Zoom meeting. I yell behind that virtual conference.
I yell on the phone.
I yell on the phone.
How are you? Why do we do that?
I don't know. It's like the last thing we should be doing. Dr. Bob would be like, "Hey, you guys, stop."
I know.
So we're lucky. People like Dr. Greider, I always call him. He's like, "I'm not a doctor. Stop calling me doctor." Yeah. Bob Greider. People like him are magical too, because and I just happened to stumble upon him because I was going to the U for a while, and then somebody referred me to him in Edina, so Minnesota, and he's more like as you know, he's like almost like a therapist, like a real psychological therapist, along with the speech therapy that he is trained in. And it was great for me to see him every week and talk through the emotions of, building this back up and trying to get to where I was before, and all of the stuff that came with that, besides just getting healthy and redeeming what I once had. But it did happen.
How badly did that mess with your head?
Oh God.
And more importantly, how do you get through that?
Yeah. I thank God I've always been a believer in therapy since I was an adult. I mean, even in childhood, but as an adult, I've always had a therapist, and that really helped, because I think the hardest part about that scenario for me was not feeling like I had purpose on a daily. Music was my life.
Yeah.
Is my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost when I started to do therapy and delve into the psychological effects and the mental health of the issue, it was more like I was struggling to find my identity without being on stage, or without being in front of people, or without, that thing that I had done my whole life since I was 4. So that was tough, and it was very much situational depression. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There were times I did not want to wake up, and I would lay in bed and just be like, please, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't know what to do with my life, but I quickly pivoted. And again, it's so fun talking about it now, because so many people have had to do this very thing in the last year. And that feeling of like, what do? I don't have purpose. I can't go to work, whatever. And I just found new meaning. And my family, like we talked about before, they're very rooted and grounded, and they were all behind me and supported me with everything. But my sister was like, you should make a list of other things that you love to do. Let's find you a way to find purpose in your life. Let's find you a way to be happy and just move forward right now and just live your life, get healthy. And so I became a nanny, because the first thing I wrote down on a piece of paper was education. I come from a long line of educators. My great-grandmother, grandmother, father, my sister, they're all music teachers. And so education was in my blood. I just didn't go to college for it. I'm not a licensed teacher. And that's why when I said education, she said, well, go get a nanny job. Like, go and influence some young minds, find a cool family.
Yeah.
I wasn't as tattooed as I am now, but this dark-haired rocker chick that just came off the road that, like, who's going to hire me to take care of their kids?
Who's that? That's the nanny. Don't mind her. Yeah.
This girl is not a caretaker.
That's the nanny? Wow. Cool, Mom. Yeah.
But luckily, the type of family that hires somebody like me is a really cool family. And
great.
They had 5 kids. Oh God. And they were all very creative, and they were singers and dancers, and they draw. They're all still very creative. And one of them went into music, by the way.
No kidding.
Probably, maybe because of, I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't
maybe.
know. Because the family, like the parents aren't that musical. They sing a little bit, but yeah, it was a really cool family, and they really, respected my past life.
Right.
And it started my whole new life. And without those kids, I wouldn't have felt purpose. They gave me purpose every single day. They still do. They're still in my life. That never ended, even though I went back to music. It just, they jump-started my journey into getting right with myself and in my head and in my mind, and finding purpose and working hard and having a family to be around every day to really lift me up during that really hard time. So I took 2.5 years off of singing until I started to feel the itch again. But I nannied for a total of 5.5 years.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell us about when you decided to audition
yeah.
for the show.
I will backtrack a bit, because when I was living my past life, there was a lot of people that would come up to me and say, you should try out for American Idol. You should try out for The Voice. I didn't know what that show was actually until the very last moment, but so many people would be like, you need to be on these competition shows. And I honestly was like, no, I'm good. I'm in a band. Right. I write music. I'm fine. We tour. I make a living. I'm happy. I don't necessarily need to be on a talent competition show, even though I was obsessed with American Idol, by the way. Like, we watched it all the time. So even on the road, we would make time. And here's what happened. Those kids were, like I said, they were creative. So they had me like watch TV with them. And Emma, the youngest girl that I nannied, was like four, right before kindergarten. So age 4. And she was like, will you watch this show with me? And I was like, sure. And I stayed late and the whole family got together. And I said, what are we going to watch? And she said, oh, it's my new favorite show. It's called The Voice. And you'll love it because Adam Levine is on it.
Oh.
And I was like, I had never heard of it. I was like, whatever. She said that she was just such a little sassy thing. She's still sassy, but she's older now. But she said, I know you'll love this show because I know you were a singer in your past life. In your past life.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, what a sweetheart.
So we watched the show and we fell in love. I mean, I fell in love. It was so much fun. I loved the premise of the chairs turning and not being able to see what you looked like. I loved the positivity of the show. That's the one thing I hated about American Idol was that they did a fair amount of, not so nice things to people or, exploiting some weird, not great singers, whatever, for a purpose, for television. So I loved The Voice because it had that positive angle. And I mean, we were obsessed with it, but here's what happened. I was starting to sing again. I had a residency at Blarney's in Dinkytown.
Wow.
It was like the only gig I was doing on Wednesday nights. And I was trying to get my voice back and trying to get my feet under me a little bit and just trying to be inspired. So I did a once a week thing. And so I was singing again a little bit, but I went to work one day and I opened up my computer and to check my email. Everyone was at school. Emma was now in kindergarten. And I had an email that came through my YouTube channel. And there was this video that went viral. And it was from me singing, like pop-up singing in the Amsterdam airport. One day we still do. We tour for the troops. We go over to the Middle East and we perform for our men and women in the Army and Navy and Air Force, all of it. And we were coming back from our first tour. That was our first one that we ever did in the Middle East. This is before obviously before The Voice, before everything. It was when we were still just rocking and doing things. And I sang in the airport. It's not so black and white. Here's what happened. There was a piano and Russ King was in my band. Mm. And he started playing and he was like, Kat, sing something. And I was like, no, it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm completely jet lagged. I didn't feel like that should happen in the airport.
Right.
And then they bought me a beer. That's the real story that sometimes I omit, especially when I'm talking to kids. But
this is an adult broadcast. So
they bought me a beer.
Yeah.
A Heineken, to be specific, because that's really all they have over there. And then I was like, let's sing. We should sing. So I put down my beer and I sang a song. And somebody videotaped. I mean, many people videoed that moment. And I remember closing my eyes because I was a little still embarrassed. And I opened my eyes and we had created this giant scene. And there was a ton of cameras filming it. So it went up on the internet several different ways on YouTube. But this one perspective went viral. And, so I didn't know that The Voice goes and they go and curate the internet for singers and musicians. And, they go to Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and they find these singers, especially in the Midwest, because we watch, their ratings for The Voice in the Midwest are super high. So they love having a Midwestern contestant.
That's right.
And it was an email saying they'd seen this video. They want me to fly out to California, skip the first 2 rounds, which I didn't even know what that meant, and go straight to the 3rd round of season 6 of The Voice. And I totally thought it was a joke. Like, I had no idea that they recruited from the internet. I thought you had to go stand in line in the cold and get your 10 seconds. And I did my research, and sure enough, that was a true email from the producers. And and I honestly, I didn't even respond. The thought of jumping back into the music industry was scary. It was, to me, I felt scared to do that. I also felt like I loved my life at this point. I had just fallen into a nice, 5-year run of being a nanny and finding this new life and starting to gig a little bit. It was all very much in place. I didn't want to upset my life. And those kids came home from school that day, and I told them, which I'm glad. I have a big mouth, and I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And I'm glad I did it, because the littlest one just said, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you, Kat? And that's very powerful. That's very powerful coming from anyone. But from a 5-year-old girl, there was no way that I wasn't going to give it a shot. And it was their favorite show. And how could I, really honestly, I couldn't be a better mentor than to give it a shot, even if nothing happened.
True.
For them.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I got on that plane.
Out of the mouth of babes.
I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone besides them. I needed the time off work. And now that was a blur, because then it was a fast and straight shot right to the blind auditions, because I spent like 5 weeks in Los Angeles filming and screen testing and singing for people and randomly singing songs. And it was just a weird, like, thing that happened. And what happens is you go through another like 3 rounds before the blind auditions, just to curate who you are, if they want to cast you. Mind you, it's a television show. It's not necessarily a talent show. You don't have to be the best singer. You just got to be what they want for that season. And I did it, and I got it. The rest is history.
Ooh. And to make a very cool story, which we should get into another time, we have to shorten it up, because I want to talk to you about other things. You were one of the finalists. What'd you end up?
4th place.
Man, how great. How does that change? Okay, so now you're thrust back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. How? I mean, I would have been dumb, really, honestly, if I wouldn't have, at least tried to do that again, because of what had happened and the momentum that was happening. And I was on Team Adam Levine, and yes, he's amazing and he's really gorgeous. But what people don't know is that he's actually a really cool, down-to-earth human. And he promised me, when I got eliminated that last week and getting 4th, I mean, I couldn't have asked for more. I feel like I won. I feel like 4th place is sometimes even better than getting 1st place, because you can move on with your life. And he promised me he would help me. He promised me he would do whatever he could. And I was kind of like, yeah, right. But he followed through with that. And I ended up getting my first single, which was called Fearless, written by Heather Hawley in Los Angeles, California. And one of her young co-writers, her name is Dana Lowry, who at the time, I believe, was 14 or 15 years old. And she's from Brisbane, Australia. I think it's Brisbane. And Heather is a big Hollywood hitter. Like, she writes for Christina Aguilera, and you name a pop princess out in Los Angeles, and Heather has written for them. So I got connected with these amazing writers and got this awesome single that I knew I wanted to do, called Fearless. And we put it down in the studio with Michael Bland, and John Fields produced it, who I had literally looked up to my entire career. I'm a huge Switchfoot fan, and a huge, like any sort of Disney princess fan, and all of the production work that he did for any of those artists. I was a huge fan of John Fields, and I knew of him for my whole life. Never met him, never had whatever. But we just asked him, will you produce this track? And he was like, are you kidding me? Yes, I will. And Michael Bland played on it and sang background vocals on it, which sometimes I forget. It's so fun to hear them. And we released it in August of 2014, which would have been 3 months after I was eliminated from The Voice before that season ended, season 6, and Adam Levine promoted the single and helped me, and it went all the way to number 5 on the iTunes charts. And back in the day, that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And we sold, oh my God, we sold like 50,000 copies in the first month. I mean, it was like record breaking, which it was unheard of at the time. But an independent artist, I did not take a record deal. I got myself out of the record deal that happens on The Voice. I did not. I had a lot of people that approached it, and I was like, no, I just want to try this on my own. But again, I would have been a fool if I didn't jump back in, and so I did. I had to leave the nanny job, but I ended up moving like a couple miles away from them. They just live right over here, and I see them still to this day. And then they supported that journey of me jumping back into the business and starting to do concerts again. And that's and releasing music, writing music, and that's how I just kept my soul fed for the next couple years after that experience.
Is it difficult to keep the momentum from a show like that?
Here's how I like to think about it. I don't know where this came from out of my brain, but I think about it like this. It's like I've always had the ingredients to make the perfect cupcake, right? Meaning I've always known what to do to write a song, to sing it, to perform it. I've always had those ingredients to make a great cupcake. What something like The Voice does is it gives you a machine to make that perfect cupcake and make it even better. And now all you have to do is push a button because it's a machine and everything's rolling for you. And all you have to do is just sort of let it be and sit back. And then when you get off the show, you don't have that machine anymore to make the perfect cupcake. But you still have the ingredients and you have the expertise. You know what to do. You just have to move forward and keep going. So yeah, it is hard to think about, oh my God, how do I do it without the team behind it? But you just navigate it. As you know, you just do. And my motto is dream it, do it. And you know, that whole, if you can dream it, you can do it sort of fantasy land thing. But I knew that what I needed to do was focus on the do part of that. Because the dreams were already there. I'd been living that forever. Now I just needed to do. And luckily, because I had experience in, the music industry in Minneapolis, I had an amazing team 10 years before that. So I asked my old manager, I'm like, would you come back to the team? And he was like, are you kidding me? 100%. He came back and managed the thing. And Eric Warner, who's still my business partner, he was all game to help me business manage, day-to-day manage, musically direct, write songs with me. He's everything. And we just kept going and doing. And for whatever reason, we were casting so many lines and so many of them kept working. We were like, okay. So we could do this and this and this and this. And it kept moving forward. I felt like I had never worked harder in my life ever, but it was all worth it at the end of the day. Every single thing that we did was worth it.
You're incredibly motivated. But it's so inspirational for me watching you and watching that meteoric rise and then see how you've added to your career with different elements.
Yeah.
And I want to speak briefly about that because not only are you an incredible artist, you are into radio.
Yeah.
You're a spokesperson on television.
Yes.
It's a whole different kind of entertainment. But what's important to me is you give back to your community. You love your community, don't you?
I love my community. I love my intermediate community in Minneapolis. And that also stems out all the way across the Midwest, especially North and South Dakota, that are very near and dear to my heart. Wisconsin has come into the game where, I love the Midwest. I love where I grew up. I love these roots. So it's very important to me. And philanthropy came really easy for me because I knew the other motto in my life is do what makes sense. I mean, you can define make sense to however you want, but I knew that, things like the Ronald McDonald House made sense to me. I knew like the Leukemia Lymphoma Society made sense to me. I knew that the the Heart Fund, the Children's Hospital. All of that made sense to me. So whatever I can do, and it all stemmed from this. I wanted to use my new voice, pun intended, for whatever I could do because I had that platform. So let me help you. Let me help you raise money. Let me help you do good. I want to do good. I want to give back. And so it just came very naturally, and all these opportunities to help all these great causes, which then led me to start my own nonprofit because I was so inspired by all of these nonprofits that I've been working with and still do to this day, a lot of them. I decided to start my own because I wanted to help kids foster their dream in the music industry. If there was one thing I didn't have growing up, it was rich parents, or, we were farmers and my dad was a teacher. Like I didn't have a lot of financial bliss there. I wasn't charmed. I worked hard, but I knew that I was resourceful at a very young age. So like even to go to college, I wrote scholarship after scholarship after scholarship to the point where I got a free ride to college because I had written those scholarships and gotten myself that financial aid by what my accolades and being in my community, being active. So I wanted to do that. That was how I started my nonprofit, to say the Rising Star Foundation is to help foster kids that have the musical talent, that have that desire, that have the passion, but don't have the financial means to take opportunities, to go to college, to go and audition for The Voice, to go to Minneapolis and record a record. We provide financial aid to all of those things. So some of them are very customary, like going to camp. We can help you get a scholarship to go to music camp. We can help you go to college, but we can also help you do the weird stuff like make a record and go on audition for America's Got Talent in Las Vegas and go audition for an opera in Italy, which we sent a girl over to Italy to audition. She was 19 years old.
What?
So the nonprofit has become very near and dear to my heart, knowing that we're helping these kids foster that dream, follow their heart, and give them a means to take opportunities that they may not necessarily have.
You're very much into speaking self-worth into these kids too.
Yeah, 100%.
But I see the self-worth that you have for yourself, and it's not cockiness. It's confidence.
Yes.
It's happiness. It's
yeah.
It's beautiful, is what it is. And you just give that to those kids, and you tell them that it's okay to be who you are, and you give them that self-confidence and self-worth.
That has become so very important, and I run my own music camp as well, so I get to have students on a yearly basis. Sometimes it's 40, sometimes it's 80, and a lot of those kids come with that musical talent and that natural talent and all those things, but they come with a struggle in their hearts or their minds, and they come with that struggle of feeling different and feeling made fun of for being different, or art, very artistic people that love art, or how many times I've gotten made fun of how I love to wear art or dress, or and these kids are young, and that became number one, to show them they're worth it, to show them that being different is cool and great, and you will literally live the most happy, exponential life when you just embrace who you are. And we actually wrote a song about it called Let You Be You. It's not released yet, and we will have to do that because these kids inspired this, and we wrote it together, Let You Be You. And that was just the theme of my camp the last 2 years ago when we had it in the summertime. It was just embrace that difference, embrace that emotion that you get to emote, embrace those things inside of you that aren't like your neighbor, and know that you're worth it, and know that someday this will speak to you in volumes. We may not know that yet, but I'm here to help you with that for the rest of your life.
I love your enthusiasm. You don't love this, do you?
I love it. I love it.
Well, you've taken this into the corporate world now too.
Yeah.
You've expanded it, and you're doing speaking engagements for corporations.
Oh my God.
But that's yet another facet that is that's a natural progression for you.
Yeah, I guess it was.
And I'm coming to you for lessons, by the way, because I want to do the same thing. I've told you that for a long time.
Oh my God, yes.
You and Joe Schmidt.
You need to do this. So, I started naturally doing it for the youngins and schools, and like that started to sort of morph into this different message, and it became all about my song called Fearless that we just talked about. So I got approached by a mom. I was speaking at a college, and she was like, "You should come to my company and I want you to speak at our next conference." And I was like, I mean, I can talk to the kids, but like the adults, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm an adult yet.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I'm a musician. We don't get to grow up. Can't have both.
True.
But I started thinking about it, and I like cold called a bunch of agents. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to talk about being fearless, I better walk the walk. And I cold called a bunch of agents and was like, I want to do this. I want to do it corporately. I want to do conferences. I want to do training for conferences. I want to be that person that does that. And then I did it kind of backwards because I didn't really know how to do that for corporate America. But then I hired a coach, and I had one coaching session in Minneapolis and changed my entire life, and it changed my entire approach to how I could really speak to not only adults, but to the money-making world and people, who entrepreneurs and women, and I mean, everyone. But here's the whole premise. If I can make money and be successful in the music industry, I'm pretty confident that I can help you do that in any other industry, because as you know, this one is probably the most difficult. Now that I know that, I grew up in it. I didn't know it was that hard because I was just doing, but now I know this is probably one of the hardest industries to be successful in. So if I can do that, I can help you in your business. I can help you with your team leadership. And I was always a natural leader as growing up. So I basically tilted the corporate speech into leadership training, how to inspire your teams, how to be creative when you might think that you're not a creative person. Mm-hmm. And how to sort of utilize that thing that you may have never accessed before. And man, it's just, now that has been my passion for, the last 3 years I've been doing corporate stuff, and it is very fulfilling. And one of the biggest feedback lines that I get is, you made me feel so special, and I know that I can take that and inspire other people, especially in my company or my team or people under me. And I love that. I love that I can make them feel, number one. But just that sort of, I'm making a difference. And, and now that I've been in the motivational speaker circuit, once you get in there, you're going to do this. When you start hearing other people's speeches, like Joe Schmidt, like, oh my God, there's so many ex-baseball and ex-Viking players that do this. And like,
Kenny
all you
Aronoff.
wanted. Yes. And like, all you want to do after hearing them speak is change the world. Like, you're like, I'm ready. I'm going to go. I have to go now because I need to go change the world.
Yeah.
And you start getting inspired by the circle. And so it's this beautiful infinity circle of learning from other people and touting what you know, because your knowledge is powerful. Mm-hmm. And I always think we should do that together. We should share that knowledge. I'm putting together the things that you've always wanted to know that now you know. It's powerful to do that for other people.
Yeah, it sure is. Because this is called Music on the Run, and we've talked about your journey and how you've dealt with different things. But let's talk about you're a spokesperson for a company. I don't know whether you want to say it on the air or not.
Yeah.
But you can.
Yeah, okay. We can totally say it.
What's the company's name?
So Livia came into my life like 2.5 years ago. And Livia used to be Medifast. If people know that in the Midwest. It's a weight
loss system, yes?
It's a weight loss journey. And oh man, they're really cool because women owned, Minneapolis based, even though they've got now Wisconsin and Minnesota. And they branched off after having their knowledge in other companies to say, hey, we got this. And not only do we have this, but we're going to do this better. And we are going to kill it. We're just going to kill it, basically. And I was very unhealthy once again. Oh my God, ended up getting COVID before COVID was a thing.
Wow.
It was this weird journey
for everything.
Of pneumonia the year before, so 2019, and I came down with pneumonia twice between December and March, and it put me in bed for like months. And it was a slow journey of recovery, and I ended up gaining a ton of weight, and which just made everything worse. And I had a lot of hormonal problems, female problems that were also entering in at the moment. So I needed to take action, and I knew that I needed to do that. And it finally took me pulling up my groin. I pulled a groin muscle so badly that I almost had to cancel a ton of shows. But instead I sat down and did shows. So weird. But I couldn't stand up. And then I went to physical therapy, and finally my physical therapist was like, I think you might just need to like try to lose weight. She's like, you have a small frame. Even 7-10 pounds is going to make a difference. Get the weight off of that pulled muscle. And I'm telling you, it's going to help. And the universe speaks, because I ended up recording a song with Chris Hockey the next day after that physical therapy appointment. Chris Hockey, awesome singer, local radio personality. And he was signing on to be a brand ambassador and spokesperson for Livia. So we recorded our song, went amazingly. He's so talented. Went super smooth in the studio. And he said, you know what, if you really want to do this, I think you should contact them and tell them I sent you. And he's like, I will tell you that those women are huge voice fans. So they might know who you are. And maybe you'll even get to be a spokesperson. I don't know. Reach out. And before I even did that, they called me. Just like the voice. So weird. Because I'm not sure. I was still terrified of the weight loss journey. I had never done it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. And I'm not a gym rat. And I'm not a runner like you. I'm certainly not. I only run if I'm being chased. So if I'm running, you should be running too.
That's okay. But this is important, because your choices and how you healed your body is important to people for this program. And
I knew that nutrition was going to be a big deal, and not necessarily exercise for me. Nutrition was going to be the thing. And I felt, imagine having pneumonia 2 times in a row. Like, I felt really unhealthy on the inside.
Yeah.
And, if you know what happens scientifically, like I do, when you have a ton of antibiotics pumped in you, especially intravenously, when I was in the hospital, you lose all your good gut bacteria. So I had nothing on my side. Like, I needed to literally do this with food. And so Livia reached out, and I had a meeting 48 hours later, and I started the plan about a week after that. It was Memorial Day, 2.5 years ago. And almost 3. We're coming up on May, almost 3. And, and they were totally interested in me being a spokesperson. The thing was, I was like, well, I want to see if it works. I want to be genuine. And if this doesn't work for me, I don't want to take this opportunity because I don't want to lie if it doesn't work for me. I can't do that. Yeah. And oh my God, it was brilliant. What happens is they have a team of dietitians and nutritionists. They're all certified. They're all registered, and they sit down with you one-on-one, and they make these plans. Now we do it over Zoom, which is totally fine. And at the time I was on the road. I was on the road 5 days out of 7. I was on the road sometimes for 30 days at a time. And I was like, how am I going to navigate food on the road? As you know, right. It's gas stations, it's rural towns, it's fast food. It's like, there's not that much choice. But once you sit down with one of those registered dietitians, they know exactly what to tell you. There are choices at the gas station. There are choices at McDonald's. There are choices at Culver's. There's a whole set of other things that you get to learn when you do something so crazy like that, to get educated about what you're putting in your body. And for me, I needed to speed up my metabolism. I needed to jumpstart my metabolism. I needed to teach my body to use the food that I'm putting in my body and not store it. And it was just fun. I just dug into the science. And I had like a playbook. It was like looking through a playbook every day of like, here's what I'm doing today. Done, done, done. 31 pounds later, And
No kidding.
almost 3 years, and I've kept it off. This is the exact weight that I was when I was on The Voice, which not a big deal, but I mean, you know, that many years ago, 7 years ago.
How does your body feel now that you are treating it with respect, for crying out loud?
It feels so much better.
See? Yeah.
I sleep well. I'm happy. I don't have these dips. I used to have like daily dips when I would blame it on caffeine, or I would blame it on whatever. And it was just, no, my body was taking these weird sugar dives or dips, and I was addicted to sugar. So getting that out of my life was huge. And I thought I was going to really struggle with that. And honestly, it took 36 hours before I was like, yeah, I'm not even thinking about the candy bar. It's fine.
Well, we'll talk off screen here, because that's why I run, so I can have the ice cream.
Well, of course, and that's part of it too. It's all about balance. It's all about balance.
What is that word? Moderation, balance.
Moderation, balance.
I don't have any of that in my system.
And you'll feel so good. And my groin is fixed, and my feet don't hurt anymore. And I can actually, if I were a runner, I would be able to do it now. And I was not at that point. So it's good. I got a healthy body going on.
I'm so happy for you.
And I feel good. It makes me happy.
What's next for you? We're starting to be able to play shows.
Yeah.
What's on your schedule? How can we find out what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I am starting to play some shows out that aren't curbside. So I'm just starting in the cities. So we're doing Crooners, which is a huge, they're always very supportive of so many artists in the city. It's called Crooners Supper Club, but as you know, there's 3 different venues inside of that. There's 2 inside and 1 outside. And they have fostered local talent, national talent for years. And they are killing it out there. They even killed it during a pandemic, doing outdoor stuff, doing virtual stuff. So we're going to start there. So that is coming up, and we'll probably do that every few months this year, which it's just one of my favorite venues. So I want to do it. And I'm going to keep doing the curbside concerts. I know that might sound crazy, and I have gotten some really cool offers to play some different venues. And I just, I don't want to go inside yet. I'll be vaccinated soon, I hope, but I want to stay there. I want to keep playing the outdoor thing. So those things are always on my mind. So live shows, yes. Here's what I learned, and I've never said it out loud, and I feel like I should take the opportunity. Playing live shows is awesome, and it's huge, and I love it, and I love that feeling. But what I did realize is that I feel like I was doing too much, and I am really enjoying being in my own bed and sticking around town and meeting my fans on a different level, because it's just been so meaningful. So I'm not going to keep the schedule that I maybe once had. I'm not going to go nuts and balls to the wall with that. I'm going to keep it to where I'm choosing the really meaningful venues, the really meaningful shows. This one we're doing at Crooners is all songs from my childhood. Oh, cool. And it leads from 1980, well, my life, but I guess the songs go from even the 70s, 60s, all the way to like the first song that I wrote in my life. And I'm going to do the storytellers thing. And those are the kind of shows that mean a lot to me. I don't necessarily go out there and do your normal bar gig. It's just not my thing. I like to stay into these artistic and crafty and like really creative shows. So I'm going to keep that going. And then I'm writing a book. I don't know if I told you that.
Did not know that.
I decided to give it a shot. It's going very slow.
You need a book with your speaking engagement, young lady.
I do. And
it's true.
I haven't lived that much of a life in the grand scheme of things, 30 some years, but I felt like I had enough to talk about and really to pass on to people, and especially the guidebook on living fearlessly, the things that I talk about in my speeches and corporate speeches and speeches to kids, of just putting that kind of all together of like, here's how I truly live my life. And here's how I truly want to inspire you to find that fearless moment for you. It doesn't have to be how I do it, but it should be something that you find on a daily basis to inspire a fearless approach, to remember to keep doing, to remember to find happiness and joy and remember where that needs to be on a daily. So that's kind of what the book is about. Plus you get my life story. We'll see. I'm trying to get it out by fall, but I'm just writing until it's done. That's what I'm doing. And it's way different than writing music, just so you know. So it's hard. It's hard. And I forgot that once you're out of school, like you can't spell anymore and you can't use like proper grammar. It's really hard. I get caught up. I'm like, there's a red line that I don't know what I spelled wrong. I gotta get it.
Yeah, right. What is that?
So writing the book. And then we're planning for my music camps this summer. We're going to try as long as the vaccination is moving forward, we're going to try to do it in person. If we can't do that, we'll do it virtually. Got to keep those kids in my life. And then the Christmas show will be here before we know it. We start this year. We start November 27th this year with our Christmas tour, which will be 4 weeks long. Plus we'll be doing curbsides with it. Yeah. So my gear is pretty laid out and I'm comfy. I'm comfy and happy.
You are inspirational. You're fierce and you're fearless.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
my dear friend, Kat Perkins, thank you for taking the time out to hang with me for an hour.
No, thank you. It really means a lot to me. I'm truly honored because I keep up with this podcast and you have so many famous and talented and iconic people. And here I am, just this little farm kid from North Dakota. So thank you for that.
We're honored. Are you kidding? We're honored to have you. I'm so excited that you said yes.
Yes, of course.
Check her out, katperkins.com. Go on Spotify. Support her because she's doing so much great stuff for the community and for kids and everybody. So thank you, Kat. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, that's it for episode 36 of Music on the Run. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Ow! Music on the Run was hosted by yours truly, St. Paul Peterson. Edited and produced by my buddy, Davide Raso. Artist relations by Owen Sartori. Video editing by Tanner Montague. And a very special thanks to the people who financially support this podcast. And remember, go out for a run today.